You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV Network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Johnson.
From the AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California, and streaming live on Ustream, this is AFTERBUZZ TV for Desperate Housewives. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest Desperate Housewives news and gossip. If you'd like to buzz in on tonight's show, you can buzz us at 424-256-1729. That's 424-256-1729. And now, picking up where the show leaves off and the buzz continues, it's AFTERBUZZ TV for Desperate Housewives.
Why are you giggling?
I don't know. Welcome, everybody. It's another week of Desperate Housewives. It's our 9th episode of the 8th and final season of this show. Girls, it's lovely to see you. Roxy Stryer, Sarah Stratton, and Derrick Shore.
Hello.
Sarah, where's your coat? Seriously, it's December, and even Los Angeles gets cold. Where is your
I was born in California. I was raised in California. I don't understand wind. I just don't understand that it makes things so much colder.
So you've experienced some crazy winds then these last few days. In fact, Eva Longoria was on this flight the other day tweeting about how her flight was so bumpy that they almost had to be diverted from
That's
LAX.
scary. I don't want anything to happen to her.
That's so sweet. You should tweet that at her. In fact, I was on a flight to San Francisco with my boyfriend on Thursday. It was his birthday. And we took off, and the plane was like wings, left, right, left, right. He was totally asleep next to me. No big deal.
No.
I'm a big
problem.
fan of turbulence, actually. Like, I like it. I enjoy it. I don't know why. I think it's fun.
Because you were born in California. Turbulence, cold weather, tank top, Sarah. I know.
These
Earthquakes?
things just go Yeah, I've been through earthquakes. I've slept through
Are you a fan?
earthquakes. I've slept through a hurricane, too.
Oh, so predictable. You're so adventurous.
There
Well,
we go.
was tonight's episode of Desperate Housewives adventurous enough for you? Or was it predictable and formulaic, as I feel like this show sometimes is?
I don't know. The season is kind of disappointing me, just because I realized when you said it's the 9th episode, and I was like, oh my gosh, it feels like this season has been so much longer than that. I feel like that's kind of a bad thing, because it's like, I feel like it should be like closing up. And
Well,
it's
but
not
maybe
that
it's
far
also
in.
a sign that so many things have happened this season, so it feels like it's longer. But I just have to say, how many people are going to be killed getting hit by cars in
I
this
was going to
series?
say, I think we're very lucky that this is the final season in terms of anything they do now, they don't have to be scared that they're saving something for later. It's like, okay, how many more car accidents are we going to see? Clearly that was it. So that's the answer, you know?
You know what? I wouldn't be so sure, though. They still have how many episodes
I
left
know,
until the
that's true.
final episode? Can't they think of another way to kill someone besides having them hit by a car?
Suicide and car accidents.
And
We've been following Twitter. Erica Don Diva says, I swear, everyone on Desperate Housewives solves their problems by running their enemies over.
Exactly.
It's so ridiculous.
Thank you for tweeting that. Who tweeted that?
That's
Erica?
Erica Don Diva.
Awesome, Erica. Thanks for tweeting that at us. It's so true. And you always see this like speeding getaway car that's sort of like mysteriously dark. And you know, next episode,
Could be
of course,
anyone.
Could be anyone. Who do you think it might be, Sarah? I know we're not into predictions yet, but initially,
I think we kind of have to address our options first.
Okay,
I
who
mean,
are our options?
You've got Bree. We see her leave in a car.
Right.
You've also, I mean, I want to know what happened to Renee. Because Renee watched Bree leave.
Right.
And she kind of looked like she was going to go after her, but who knows. And then you have Carlos, but he's in rehab, so is he out of rehab? Could he have done it? And then Mike, who obviously doesn't like him.
Right.
They have a lot of options and a lot of people who have complete reason to want to kill this guy. And part of me wants to say it's Bree, but I think that they want someone else to be a murderer.
It was kind of weird for me when I was watching. I was like, I didn't have that thought in my mind. Oh, who was it? I assumed it was Bree. And now you guys are asking me, and maybe that's too obvious, but she was the only one who was out. We saw where everybody else was. We saw everybody else's alibi. I think it's more the police figuring out who it was.
But also, why would Bree even know
Where
that,
he was.
Yeah, exactly. And we see her, I think it might be a little too predictable.
Right.
That we see her sort of looking drunk. Renee sees her get into the car and drive away. The next thing we see is Chuck on the ground. Which, by the way, I'm so glad he's just finally gone. Because he turned into a
There's
total
no way
douche.
he's alive still, right? Dead.
Well, I don't know. In next week's tease, they
Said he was dead.
They said he was dead.
Yeah, okay.
So who knows? I can't believe I used to think he was cute. He ended up being such a jerk.
What the hell?
That scene with Bree where he came back and was like, I want you to suffer. I mean, who says that?
Yeah.
And was like, think about if you'd said yes to marrying me, then where would you be now? It's like
She's like, then I'd be married to an asshole.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm sure she's really thinking, I wish I had married Chuck.
Yeah.
I felt like the next line was, marry me and I'll make it go away. Like,
Yeah.
Because
it
he was that
creepy.
desperate.
Exactly. He is a desperate cop. There should be a new show, Desperate Cops.
I think desperate douches.
Desperate
douchebags.
Brilliant.
Seriously,
Oh my
Roxy,
God.
let's do
We
it.
just thought of something epic.
Oh, well, you
It
know,
could be a reality show, though. We could just find.
desperate douchebag. Oh, we could find so many people to put on this reality show.
Yeah.
So when this episode started tonight, by the way, tonight was kind of crazy. I ran into Fabio at Costco and Van Nuys before coming to the studio. Side note, bizarre, I know.
I love Fabio.
He works out at my gym in Hollywood Golds. The episode starts and we see these women being brought into the police station by Chuck. Chuck is playing this smooth guy, like, hey girls, don't worry, it's just a casual chat, blah blah blah.
I'm your friend.
Right. And Bree is noticeably absent from this. So he takes the women in one by one, questions Susan, questions Gaby, questions Lynette. And so far, the women seem a little shaken, but they seem to be sticking to their guns and holding their grounds and not changing their story.
Despite the fact that their friendship is like falling apart.
Exactly.
Susan was so awkward, though. She was like, well, I don't know him. It was so obvious.
But that's pretty typical Susan fashion,
yeah,
though,
of
right?
course. It definitely was typical, but as a cop, you've got to read right through that.
Yeah.
Of course you did.
But at one point in the episode, though, wasn't Tom saying something like, if they don't have a body, then that's it, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe Mike was saying that. If there's no body, then he can't really prosecute anyone,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I actually think it was, who's that new cute neighbor that Renee
Ben?
sees?
Ben.
I think Ben was saying that.
Now,
Maybe.
did we ever determine how he made that body go away?
They
He
buried
made Mike
it.
do it.
Yeah.
He had
Okay,
Mike
Mike
do it.
hauled
And
it-
the like
hauled it away.
foundation of one of the houses.
Jeez, all of these characters have so many different legal charges that could be pressed, right?
Yeah, oh yeah. Between watching this in American Horror Story, I think I'm going to go home and make my dad dig up my house and see if there's a dead body underneath it, because hiding bodies or the field, if you were ever out and digging in the dirt and just found a body, I think I would die right there. Oh my God.
It's interesting that your mind even goes there, Roxy, because, wow,
You guys weren't
okay.
thinking about that?
I mean,
No.
things like that happen.
no,
Though, like you never like
not.
watch CSI
No, like-
and get in the car and you're like, is someone around?
All-
Like lock the door.
How many
right
times
away.
have you checked under your bed after watching a scary movie? Because I like do the check and then the double check and then I run and jump onto the bed.
I guess I kind of look around in a little bit of a suspicious way. If anyone out there is feeling creeped out tonight by this episode, call our viewer line so you and Roxy can have a little chat about
I
digging
mean, like,
bodies
we
up.
can have a sleepover if you want, so I won't have to be scared. There's anyone under my bed or under my house.
Sure, let's do it. Let's go for it.
We'll protect you.
There have been a few times over the entire 8 seasons of this series where we've seen the women's friendship on the rocks, right? But you always kind of know, obviously, they need to reconcile and move on because they're the Desperate Housewives. They've got to be friends. But in this episode, I thought it was really interesting when Bree went over, she baked whatever she made, took it over to Lynette's
Cherry
house.
scones.
Cherry scones.
I know that because I was like, damn, I want one of those.
I know, they sound so healthy, but if you go to Starbucks, they're like 900 calories. So I don't suggest them for a
It is
midnight
true.
snack.
Starbucks cupcakes are way less than their scones and everything else. It's bizarre.
Isn't that weird that scones are just so
So
fattening and
fattening.
calorie laden? I know, it's
so
terrible.
good, though. They're so
Butter.
good.
So Lynette, who is typically really level-headed, she really kind of gave it to Bree and said, well, you know what? You're on your own. Sorry, you're on your own. We're all on our own. I was a little surprised that she was so harsh, especially considering the difficulty she's experiencing, the pain she's experiencing in her life right now.
Right.
It's really interesting to me though how it's despite like they're all mad at Bree, but none of them are on, like, the side getting together. Like,
Yeah.
normally when the lanes fighting, they, like, split up into their little groups, and they're, like, paired up, and you
Or
see,
they
like,
gang
the
up
two
on
of
someone.
Yeah,
Exactly.
They aren't mad at Bree. They are mad at Bree. Like,
Yeah,
you know
they're,
what I
like,
mean?
separate.
Individually, yeah.
So it's like all the housewives, like, aren't hanging out. Like, none of them are friends. And part of me can't really figure that out. Like, why aren't Gaby and Lynette really friends? Like,
Yeah, why is it so distant right now?
it's so distant between everyone.
Yeah, I was wondering that too. And go ahead, Roxy.
I think it was because each person was keeping a secret from a next person. So we saw that Gaby and Bree and Lynette kept something from Susan, and then Gaby and Bree kept something from Lynette, and then Bree kept something from Gaby. So it was like
That's right.
everybody was mad because
They felt
somebody
like-
was lying to them.
Yeah, and in that last episode 3 weeks ago, before the break, we saw exactly that happen.
Yeah.
They were
But then
all
how can they all be mad since they've all done it? Except for Susan.
I don't know. I think they're all just kind of stressed out and crabby.
I mean, I would be too. You're an accessory to murder, and you think you're about to get caught.
Plus, they're best friends, so they're probably all getting their periods at the exact same time.
That happens.
I know.
This is the
It truly
underlying
does.
problem of the show.
I mean, that might be a little too much information, but do you have experience with this happening
I
in
mean,
your life?
more so probably with you because you live in the sorority house. But like, I hear about that. I mean, I have 5 girl roommates, and cycles run the same.
What happens though when you live in a sorority house and you have a limited number of bathrooms? I mean, DJ Jesse, are you?
Is this what we're
feeling me, if
talking
you know
about
what
right
I mean?
now?
No, I think this is really important and interesting for all of our male viewers out there, like myself. Probably curious about how this works. You live in a sorority house. All the girls are going through their period at the same time.
I
You
mean-
have like 3 bathrooms.
It's kind of divided amongst friend groups. Like, it's normally whoever you hang out with the most. Let's be honest.
I know, but
That's how it
certainly you're
works.
going to be overlapping with other girls. I mean, don't you find yourself waiting in long
Well,
lines?
No.
when you
I've
when you
never
have your
waited in
periods, you
line
don't
for the
just sit in the bathroom the whole time, all day. I'm just gonna sit here.
Is that what happens?
No, you
I'm
don't.
kidding.
No, that's not what happens.
Oh gosh, all these things that you girls do that I'm so glad I don't.
And if, in case anybody was listening right now, they are no longer. So I guess we could just stop talking about the show.
Are you? All 3 of our viewers have actually clicked the page closed.
Amazing.
But that's okay because I love hearing your voices. So we can just
We
talk
can
at
just
each
keep
other
talking.
for the next half an hour. I don't know, and then we'll wrap up the show.
That sounds
Perfect.
perfect to me.
One of my favorite lines to go back to the girls feuding against each other is when they're sitting at the police station without Bree, of course, but Lynette, Gaby, and Susan are there, and they say, "Well, I don't know, should we get a lawyer?" And Gaby says something like, "Maybe Susan could paint us a picture of one." Did anyone else
funny.
think that was funny?
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's pretty funny.
Especially
I mean,
because Susan, what an idiot. If I was going to be mad at anybody right now, I'd be pissed at Susan. Like, what the hell,
I would
Susan?
agree.
One of my favorite lines was when Lynette was sitting in there, and she said she was staying so cool, and Chuck turns to her and was like, "What happened to keeping your cool?" After she smacks him. He was like, "Whatever happened to that?" Just that scene in general was so intense.
how awesome was that, though? When
So
she was like,
awesome.
"Well, you
Well,
told me
you
to
told me-
pretend you weren't a
yeah.
cop."
Exactly. You told me to pretend we were friends, whatever it was.
See, moments like that are so much more satisfying for me as a viewer. I went from this like little crush and adoration for Chuck and loving him and Bree together, but then figuring out what a douchebag he is, I loathe him so much that when Lynette slapped him, I was like, "High five, Lynette!" And at the end, when he gets hit by the car so suddenly on a cell phone,
There's who cared?
Exactly. It's too
Yeah.
easy to let off a villain
I
like
wanted
that
them to
by
find
hitting-
blackmail against him or something instead of just killing him off.
Yeah, it's too easy. It's like a quick, painless death.
Yeah.
Ooh, do I want to see him suffer? Yeah, I mean, I guess as a viewer, you want to feel satisfied that the douchebag got his day in court.
Absolutely.
so to speak.
And they could have dug up some dirt on him, anything like that. I would rather see than boom, he's dead. Okay, problem solved. It's like America. If you want to solve your problems, just get in your car and kill somebody.
That is the solution.
You know what's funny? When I watch the show, sometimes I think, ooh, gosh, I hope people really, like Bree, she's clearly drunk. She gets in her car and drives away. She's got the
It
gun
makes it
there.
wherever she's
and-
going okay.
Yeah, and it works out.
And you hear these stories about kids who play video games, and they're like, "Well, I thought violence was cool, so I kicked the crap out of my friend in class." It's shows like this that do that to people and manipulate them, and it makes me scared, especially when we see the end scene, which we'll get to later, when Mary Alice is talking. So
Oh my gosh, freaked me
like-
out.
Yeah, it's a fun one.
freaked me out. But before we got to that, though, and before Chuck got hit by the car, what I love about Bree, she has her faults, I know, and I know I change my mind every 5 minutes about who's my favorite. Bree is awesome because the fact that she would go to him and say, you know what, whatever you want to charge me with, whatever you think I did, just go for it, but leave my girlfriends alone. I love that. I think that's so honorable.
Yeah.
And makes me forgive her a bit for being drunk and jumping in her car.
But
and
how sad was
away.
that scene with her and the girls that weren't her friends?
Oh my gosh, it was so
That was
pathetic.
crushing. It was so pathetic.
It was pathetic, but I also thought it was borderline overacted. Sarah, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, when you said, like, I forgive her for drinking, this episode really just made me forgive that whole part of her because I was like, she has no one. Her whole family, like, doesn't talk to her or like her. She's lost all of her friends. She's been through, like, how many husbands? And I'm just like, how can she keep going? And she's, like, trying to still stick up for her friends who won't talk to her. Like, it really made me feel so sorry for her.
Yeah.
And I was like, of course she's going to fall back into this problem because she has no one to talk to.
Yeah.
100%. And that's what really hit home for me was when Chuck turned to her and said, you are so resilient. Your husband dies. Your husband leaves you. Your son walks out, says a million things. You were an alcoholic, and you get back up, and you get back up. And it's so true about her. Every time she gets back up, and this is the time because she's had her friends. And he's like, that's why. And she says, take away my friends, and I have nothing. And that's what was like, yeah, what else is she going to do right now? What is she to do?
And Chuck knew that. Chuck knew that by causing this rift, he was driving that friendship further and further apart between Bree and her girlfriends.
Right.
And you're right. That's without that, she feels, as we saw at the very end of this episode, so hopeless that the viewer is led to believe she's going to find the same fate as Mary Alice.
Yeah.
And I feel like they just, like, her friends, if they just saw her take one drink, they'd, like, come rushing back or something.
Oh, yeah. They'd, like, strap her down and, you know, put her under 24-hour surveillance.
I don't want her to have to go so far as to hurt herself for something to happen.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see. I mean, there was the one shot in next week's episode, the tease that was shown at the end of last night's episode, showed there was a shot of Bree in it, but we couldn't quite figure out what that was.
It was weird because it said, and everybody's a suspect. And then it does shots of the three girls together and then a shot of Bree separately. And it looked to me like she was still sitting at the table. But I don't know whether that was a shot from this week. I don't know.
But in our predictions, didn't we talk about a major character dying before the end of this year? Not the end of the season, but the end of this year. I thought there were some rumors. Jesse,
there was a rumor. I
what was the
remember what you're
rumor?
talking about, but I don't think it didn't tell us anything about who it was.
But it talked about a major character, though, right?
Chuck
and it wasn't,
wouldn't be considered a major character.
I don't think so. I would always assume that it would be like a Mike or a Carlos or someone like that who we sort of see here and there. And
although I would definitely think by the end of the year, it's the last season, one of them won't be there anymore.
One of the women?
Yeah.
It just seems a little too early to kill off one of the women,
a little too early, I agree.
Ooh, maybe it'll be Renee. I know.
Yeah.
Maybe they could kill off Renee by having someone drive a car down a really dark street in the middle of the night.
How did you
no
think
idea.
of that?
Wow, that was brilliant.
And then bam, before you know it, the curls and the hair and the miniskirt, everything just goes flying. And you see her like face down on the pavement.
That's genius.
And then we end the whole season and they're not sure who killed her.
Oh my gosh.
We wrote Desperate Housewives.
That would be a first
No, we'll save that for
Housewives.
Desperate Douchebags. Okay? Keep
I'm
that in
telling
mind
you,
for that.
Desperate Douchebags, that is one of the best ideas I've had since tonight at Costco when I ran into Fabia. And
what was your idea then?
I was going to say, what was that idea?
The idea was to buy an 8-pound bag of chocolate chips. Oh, you know what? I will make all of you my holiday English toffee.
I make holiday English toffee.
Shut it.
Every year.
Oh.
AfterBuzz TV
Oh my God,
exclusive.
Jesse, I make English toffee, do you?
I know I do. It's such
But
a
I make
tradition.
chocolate cookies.
Me too.
Okay,
Me too, baby.
we've got to have a holiday AfterBuzz bake-off. That would be
We have
killer.
our holiday
English
party
toffee?
coming
How
up.
desperate housewife of us.
Mine's a family secret recipe.
Oh, mine is a secret something. You just can't even Yeah, the holiday party, I can't make it. Sarah Bareilles is performing this Friday in Hollywood. What? She's amazing.
She is.
Okay.
Hit both spots.
Wait. I saw her a couple months ago.
Where?
Where was she? She was in Santa Monica.
Oh my gosh, I love her. I want to be friends with her.
Yeah, I definitely, yeah.
Next week, I will be friends with her by next Sunday at this time during the show. Can we talk for a minute about Lynette?
Okay, let's talk about
Tom?
Lynette.
Okay, so this was
Yeah, we can talk about Lynette and Tom.
An evil, what's her name, Jane. Sorry, I don't like her at all.
Oh, you know what?
Jane
Jane is just innocent. What's wrong with Jane?
Jane.
Jane is not innocent.
She's the other woman, but she's the other woman, but Tom and Lynette were separated, and Lynette wanted the separation. Again, Lynette is not the victim.
But Jane is creeping in on Penny, and Jane is
going to Paris, and Jane
thinks she has a right to know Lynette's life and information, and
you don't know my life.
And Jane's been in the
picture. You
picture.
don't know my business.
I just had crazy deja vu.
But Jane,
because I never did that before, just for the record. That was not deja vu from my end.
I think it was.
I don't do that.
You don't know my life.
Oh my gosh. I forget that there are cameras here. Good thing no one's watching. What were you going to say about Jane?
No, Jane's only been there for like 2 months, and she's acting as if she's married to Tom.
She knows how to sew and make things in the kitchen.
She's a doctor. How does she have this much free time?
I don't know, because she's really an actress in real life, and they just wrote it that way. Who the F knows, Sarah?
And they're going to
don't
Paris.
know.
Are you playing devil's advocate, or do you like Jane?
Listen, all I'm saying is that Lynette and Tom came to a mutual agreement where they would split. And if anyone was a little hesitant about that agreement, it was Tom. Lynette was the one who said, no, I'm sorry, we're not getting back together. Okay to feel bad for Lynette, fine. But Lynette is not, it's not like Tom started seeing Jane and then moved in on Lynette's territory.
Well, I don't like Jane.
Okay, fine. I don't like her either. I hate her style. I think she's hideous, and they should have cast someone more pretty in that role.
Yep.
But
what was with her hair this episode? It was like greased down onto her face.
Oh my gosh, it was like taming the wildebeest
it
in
looks
Tanzania.
Like Donald Trump's hair if it would be longer.
Hideousness. You know, we should do an AfterBuzz fashion type thing because I don't know much about fashion. Shocker,
you look
right?
good.
Yeah, you look good every week.
It's a brown V-neck sweater.
It's so basic, guys.
But it like kind of matches your glasses, so.
Oh, these glasses. I do like these glasses because I can see with them. But I know nothing about fashion.
And they're trendy. You know it. You're trendy.
But I know when something looks good, and I know when something does not look good. And she is looking like the Wolfman, Jane. Who is the Wolfman anyway? It just sounds appropriate, doesn't she?
Yeah, no, she looks like Wolfman.
Listen, I love to hate her too. I just don't think that her character is necessarily a bad person. And because she's dating Tom and wanting to make a good impression, of course she's going to try to do things for the kids. And of course she's going to try to help Penny with her homework or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think
You don't think she's like moving in like super duper fast? Because she's only been there for so long.
There are only so many episodes in this season, Sarah. It's got to go fast.
But what about the kids? It's just so much
What
for them.
about
You're
the
too
kids?
emotionally attached
Listen,
right now.
I was a
Detach
child of
yourself.
divorce. I turned out really messed up. But that doesn't mean anyone will. Everyone will, right? The kids will be fine. What about the kids? What
People
about
Magazine or Us or Weekly just ran a segment of celebrities who had divorced parents.
And they were. It was like Courtney Love and Kurt Cobain. and things turned out fine. Fine.
And then
No, I was kidding about that.
Oh my gosh.
Who were the celebrities?
And then I only remember the
Nick
one that was
Nolte.
like adopted kids. They had that one too,
And they were all messed up too.
no, there were a lot of great kids.
I feel like
There were great kids. It was like Snooki.
Shut up. Was she really?
She was adopted, and yeah, those parents must be so happy they did that.
Yes. Yes,
I'll cut out the article for you guys.
Well, she turned out fine. Did you read her book, by the way?
no.
No, I can't. I skimmed through.
She talks all about the weenus. This part right here.
How you can't feel it?
I don't know. Remember
Isn't
being
that
in
what it's supposed to
school
be?
and-
You can't feel the weenus?
I can feel mine.
I can't feel mine. Here.
Gosh, we have gotten off topic on this show.
No, you can't
Stop
feel
playing with your weenus, please. Let's get back to the game.
Our systems detect that a host has wandered off the subject.
Yes.
Please return at once.
And which host was that?
Our systems
Well, I
detect
guess
that a
it was.
host has wandered
You
off
know
the
whose
subject.
weenus I would love to
Please return
touch?
at once.
Brian Austin
Our
Green.
systems detect that a host has
I'm
wandered
still
off the subject.
obsessed.
And you know
Please
what?
return at once.
What happened to the good old days when Bree was happy and
With him.
still on the wagon?
Like, come on, Bree, get on the wagon.
I know. It actually was pretty crushing to see her go to the table with those drunk girls and invite herself to it. Again, I thought it was overacted. I thought Bree was kind of crazy.
And how similar they made the women to like the women on the lane really bothered me.
I know. The Latina girl and the blonde
Oh,
girl who she kept calling Lynette. And
It wouldn't have been overacted if it had been Susan or maybe
or
Gaby.
even Gaby.
But the fact that it was Bree, it was such a stretch.
Yeah.
It was like that. But then again, she hadn't drank in a really long time.
Well, but I didn't think she was acting drunk. I thought
Yeah,
she was
that's the
acting
thing.
silly. Do you think these actors actually have a few drinks before playing drunk? Because I
I wonder about it all the time.
I think I would have to have a few drinks.
I think I would want to.
Like tonight, can you guys tell I've had a few drinks?
You seem kind of wasted to me.
I had just Diet Coke. Don't worry, there were no drinks.
Just
but
kidding.
when we see the episode progress, though, and we see Bree in that motel room, that is the heartbreak
Yeah.
for me. That's when you see this veneer has cracked. You know, Bree, this perfect homemaker, has finally reached her breaking point.
At the very end.
How spooky was it to see Mary Alice sitting right there?
When was the
Oh,
last
my
time we saw
goodness.
Mary Alice
In an episode?
Yeah.
Well, probably in a flashback. I mean, we see those flashbacks all the time. That gun scene that was the pilot episode of the series.
Yeah, but I mean, this is crazy because we just hear her voiceover all the time. We don't hear her voice and new words.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really weird to me. I was just like, whoa, it scared me.
Well, I'm really
What was
hoping...
that? Jesse?
I can
Freaky.
hear DJ Jesse.
What's going on?
No, we
scared
just
me.
hear you whispering ghost-like into our
As
into
we're
our
talking
ears.
about ghosts.
I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Oh, I don't know
wow.
either.
The creepiest part about this for me, and this is what I was talking about when I was talking about the video game and everything like that, is when she says, "Do you remember the good?" Bree says, "Do you remember the good old days?" And are you happy? And
Yeah.
Mary Alice says, "I'm not unhappy."
Yeah, I know. Ugh. Perfectly written line, by the
Instead
way.
of saying, "Yeah,"
Perfect.
I was so happy she didn't say, "Yes, I am."
Right.
I'm
Me
not
too.
unhappy. And that to me was like the most gut wrenching thing because
That's really
I
creepy.
think Mary
Please
Alice
don't
is
do
here in the
that.
studio.
no, but seriously, it was the most gut wrenching thing because
Yeah.
like people watching the show who have thoughts of suicide, think about it. Hearing that, it's like they're not looking to be happy. It's about looking to not feel pain anymore.
Yeah.
And that's
You're not
that.
unhappy. You're not happy. You're dead.
Yeah.
You're dead.
Oh, this is really, really.
Yeah, it creeped me out, and I was like, yeah. Ugh.
It is
Yeah,
so touchy
heebie-jeebies.
to have. I mean, typically when suicide or depression is talked about or featured on this program, there's always a way of bringing the episode around.
Yeah.
They do a great job of talking about, as we've discussed before, difficult topics, whether it's child molestation, being gay, adopted children, failed marriages.
Yeah.
They have a way of bringing humor into these conversations about really difficult things. The suicide thing and Bree in this dumpy motel, and when the guy said, "Oh, and breakfast is whatever time in the morning," and she said, "I don't think I'll be here for breakfast." That kind of foreshadowing, that really, typically the show is all over the place, but tonight was the first time I felt kind of uneasy.
Maybe I think maybe that was the point of it, is how ugly suicide is, and it can be
That it's
in the
not.
that it's not pretty, and that it's not glamorous, and that it's not
It's not something you can
desirable.
overcome. It's
Yeah, and that it does that might be the point, that it doesn't cause happiness. And here she is sitting with her bottle and her gun by herself in her motel room. It just
You know what's horrible too is when she pulls out the bottle of wine and then pulls out the gun. I was like, well, I hope you finish the bottle first. Like, don't let it go to waste. I actually thought that. And then a second later, I was like, you know what?
it's very
Hopefully not, because then maybe she'll be less inebriated.
Yeah, that's true. And it's been very interesting to me, though. Wine, this whole time, wine. And, you think of adults and you think people drinking wine, that's very social and casual. not when you're downing bottles. And you know, how many times have you seen somebody drink way too much wine, but it's okay because it's just wine.
Whereas if it were a glass of like scotch or whiskey,
yeah, then it's different.
Interesting point. That's
Which
really
is what
interesting.
I was looking at her, thinking about the entire time, and she hits the alcohol closet and she pours herself a glass of wine, and I'm like, oh well, that's not as bad as if she, but that it is. It's alcohol, you know.
If you're drinking an entire bottle of wine,
yeah.
woof. I mean, that's enough to really mess you
On
up.
top of already being drunk, clearly.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Wow. Well, perfect timing for the holidays. You know what I'm most excited about is that we
Happy
actually
holidays.
have an episode next week.
Yeah.
They're not taking a break. I'm glad we're going to be around next week.
Yeah.
Why don't we take a quick commercial break, and then we'll talk about some foreshadowing, and we'll meet you in a minute.
Perfect.
AfterBuzz TV. Hi, I was once like you, a lazy, angry loner whose only joy was watching TV and surfing the net. And like you, after I'd see one of my favorite TV shows, I'd be so excited and have so many questions that I'd actually have to talk to my douchebag coworkers about it at the water cooler. Then I discovered AfterBuzzTV.com. AfterBuzz TV produces after-show webcasts and podcasts for TV series of all kinds, like post-game wrap-up shows for all your favorite TV shows. AfterBuzz TV hosts are industry insiders who break down episodes of shows, take calls from fans, and interview cast and crew from each series, with over 60 different after shows, from Boardwalk Empire to American Idol to Vampire Diaries to Real Housewives, and more. Now, after a night of TV, I can ignore my stupid coworkers, who I hate, and go straight to my desk and watch or listen to all my favorite AfterBuzz TV after shows, and have all the TV fan interaction I need. Thank you, AfterBuzz TV. AfterBuzz TV. What do you want to buzz about?
I think for the rest of tonight's episode, we should try to do that accent. What was that accent?
And then it changes at the end to something like this. You know,
That is
real
a
slow.
Boston.
That is not a Boston accent.
He's from Boston.
But dude, so are you, and so is she.
Right, but everyone thinks I'm from Canada.
Wait,
And she's been pronouncing Mary Ellis as Mary Alice all night.
No, it's
It's
Mary
Mary
Alice.
Alice.
Oh, it is. I was like, you are so Boston.
Mary
It's Mary
Alice.
Alice.
It's Mary Alice.
That's epic. No, it's really her name. But if it was Mary Alice, I don't even know how to say the second one.
Right.
Mary
Alice.
Alice.
Ellis.
Mary Alice.
You Bostonians. Well, we realized during the commercial break that Bree has been a huge time suck because she's the only character we've talked about this entire episode. We should talk about the fact that Lynette went to the airport to intercept Tom. We talked about his girlfriend. You hate Jane.
Why was it so important that she tell him now?
Because I think it was because she got questioned that she thought she might actually be getting caught, so she needs someone to look after her kids.
Oh, but couldn't she call her mom or something? I thought that was weird, too. It seemed a little
Excuse,
too
like,
convenient
yeah.
that Lynette keeps popping up. I mean, if I were what's-her-name Jane, I'd be pissed at Lynette, too. Like, stop showing up on my Parisian vacation.
Well, I would be more pissed at Tom. Stop letting her.
Yeah. Well, Tom, I mean, tried to hold
And
his
I
own. In the men's room, Tom was like, Lynette, I can't believe you're doing this. Not now. We're going to Paris. And it wasn't until she said, this is an emergency. I'm an accessory to murder.
Yeah.
I mean, that would get your attention, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think it was right. I don't think that he had any reason to tell Jane about why he needed to stay.
Yeah, I think so too. And even when they were sitting in that lounge, by the way, when Tom was talking to Jane about, oh, and Lynette and I used to do this, you're seeing that veneer crack a little bit too. I swear Tom and Lynette are going to get back together. Inevitable.
Well, we've heard they are. I think we've heard through the grapevine that they are.
Okay, well, that seems pretty obvious, and I think this was sort of maybe a turning point for
Yeah.
that. Let's talk about Susan for a minute, because I think if I were in Susan's position and I had been accused of this crime or about to be accused of this crime, why the hell would you leave town to make it seem like you're guilty, right? I mean,
And especially if you're just going away for a couple weeks and coming back.
right.
I think she's 100% convinced she's going to be caught no matter what she does, so she just wants to live her life until she's caught.
Interesting. Well, also interesting, I thought that Mike was the unsupportive husband. He was like, I'm not going to New York. If you're going to go, you're going to go alone. What the hell was that?
I think that is fair, though. Like, Susan's the one pulled him into
Yeah.
all of this. And now she's running away, and he's like, I want to stay here with my family where life is. Like, you can't just go off and be an artist and do everything you want. Like, this is our family.
You can't just uplift us right now.
And the fact that she's even still thinking about going or still packing after he says that.
But she's experienced some success, even though the painting that she drew that was so popular was like a confession of the women's murder. They drew in a lot of money, and for the first time in a long time, Susan is feeling like she's successful and she's good at something.
They drew in a lot of money because the Desperate Housewives paid for them.
Okay,
I mean,
right, but they would have sold anyway. And this art critic,
is that what happened?
Yeah, they ended up buying them up.
Yeah,
Gabby and Bree wrote the check.
I forgot that's what,
But that art critic, that little guy, Leslie Jordan, I forget his character's name, Felix, I think, he was saying, you know what, I think you're really talented. I want to represent you and take half of every painting you sell in New York City. You could be huge. So I feel like this is an opportunity for Susan. And Mike is not being, I mean, plumber, whatever, he has his career. I'm not saying that is not a real career, as it obviously is, but this seems like a big opportunity for Susan.
It hasn't been stable for him, though, because remember, he had to go to Australia, Quebec,
yeah, he
Alaska.
was out of work. So you would think if there was ever a time, he went up to Alaska. You would think that if there was a time for them to sort of go for something, this might be it.
Yeah.
But he's not into it.
I don't know, it just kind of bothered me where the line was, or something about how she had nothing left there. I get they were insinuating that her friends weren't there and that she felt lost. But her family's there, her kid's there. Like, he has a life too, and so does her husband. Like, she's not the only person who matters. Like, it bothered me that she wanted to leave so bad and wasn't even talking to him about it. Was just kind of like just packing and ready to go.
Well, I love Susan, and I don't like Mike, so we're moving on.
Okay, then.
I'm kidding.
Fine.
Gabby and Carlos. So Carlos is in rehab. This is great. Gabby goes in typical fashion.
This is great. I love rehab.
Well, no, it's great that he finally took the step to go into rehab. We saw in the episode from a few weeks ago. No, it's great. I mean, that's huge. I've had friends in rehab and actually getting to the point where they say, like, I have a problem, I'm doing this.
Which one of the housewives went into rehab today? Did you guys hear that? One of the housewives of Beverly Hills.
Beverly Hills?
Yeah,
not the Desperate
Housewives.
Wait, Kim?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
went to rehab.
It wasn't Kyle, right?
No, it was Kim. It was
The blonde one.
I don't watch the Housewives.
But between the two sisters, she's the blonde one.
Guys, this is the Desperate Housewives, not the Real Housewives
I
of
just
Beverly
got confused
Hills.
for a second,
Can we get an off-topic sound effect, please? No, I'm kidding.
Stay with us, folks. Things could break any minute now, but right now, back to our regular program.
Is that Kermit?
How did we get Kermit to do a little cameo? I love this.
The Muppet movie came out. Kermit was in studio.
Oh, my God.
To get some VOs out there. So.
Well, listen, I'm watching the clock. We got a minute left, so let's quickly talk about this. Gabby, Carlos, she sneaks in. Tries
Your
to
AfterBuzz TV predictions.
She tries to get in by flirting with the gay reception. He's like, dude, come on, male nurse, not happening, not getting in. But
Gets
eventually,
in through other family counseling.
Right, she sneaks in and pretends to console this other family. But eventually, Carlos vaporizes. He disappears and checks himself out from rehab. So what's our
going
prediction?
On? I think he was just coming home, but maybe he hit. I don't know. They don't know where he is. So I just think that the reason for that was so that he could be a suspect.
Interesting. You know,
I agree.
I am not sure, and I don't know. Like, Carlos has never been my favorite. I don't know how much I care about where he might be, but I do
really
care
like Carlos.
if he's the guy who hit Chuck and killed him.
Which I don't think he is. So predictions on who is the person who hit Chuck?
I don't know. I think it might be Carlos. I think it might be Carlos leaving rehab out of his mind, runs into Chuck, and it just
remember
was
though,
fortuitous.
it was like in the predictions you see, he says, he goes, "You think it was me who did it?" And it looked so believable, and maybe that's why I'm saying that. But he seemed very offended, and
I think it's Carlos or Mike. I think it's one of the boys.
I think it was Bree.
Interesting. Okay, well,
and that's why she feels like she has to kill herself.
Yeah.
I wish on these predictions we had a little quarter jar so that in next week's episode or whenever we find out, we can split up.
I would say it's about
winnings.
pretty even right now. It's not like one of us is always right, which is good because we always have different
It's not
opinions.
like one of us is always right. Excuse me.
I
know
so much more than you're right.
I'm kidding. Who the hell knows what's going on? No, it's I think that Bree is definitely a feasible option. But again, I just think that's a little too obvious because we saw her stumbling into the car. We saw her driving away. The next thing we see is Chuck getting hit by a car.
I know
the
what you
writers of the
mean.
show don't lead us down a path
I mean,
that
but
easily.
Bree's
I know.
death toll is like way above everyone else's. So,
Oh, like how many people she's killed?
or been around their deaths.
Interesting.
She always seems to be there.
Bree is like the black cat in the neighborhood. So when we see Bree, the next scene is always a death scene.
Wait, is this case completely dropped now because he's dead?
Well, he seems to be
I
the
don't think
only, but Chuck was really the
was
only detective
unofficial.
who was going after this, and charges were not officially filed. He was about to.
Right.
But we saw in the tease for next week's episode that the other detective there is now going to come after.
Right.
See, that's what I'm gonna say. They're gonna like dig in further, see what he was digging for, find that. I don't know if they'll ever get as far as Chuck did, but I think it's going to, like, they're gonna be threatened by it.
You think by the end of the season we're not going to have some sort of resolution on this case? You don't think they're going to find anything out or accuse anybody, or do you think it's just going to be dropped?
I'm going to put a prediction out there.
Go for it.
I think Carlos is going to confess. I think it's going to be a part of his rehabilitation.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting, to save the women. Carlos confesses.
But now
the
he's
women
not
are off-
in rehab.
Well, but remember, he's always felt that guilt. If we went back towards the beginning of the season, he had that guilt, and then the priest came in. Gaby captured the priest to kind of let him confess to him. I said it at the beginning. I just feel like he's going to be the one that
He takes the hit for
takes
everything.
it for everybody.
And you think the women will, like Carlos will modify his story so the women are let off the hook entirely? Because technically they are, even if Carlos confesses and then says, oh, and then the women loaded him into the trunk.
Yeah, but he
and
could
buried
say,
him.
and then I loaded him in, and then I drove him out, and nobody knew.
Right.
Yep, and I feel like he'll also have a deep moment with Susan, again, because that was random that they even put the two of them together, and almost be like, you are guilt-free, you're not a part of this anymore. I'm taking it from her, and that will kind of be her healing of
Susan?
whatever. Yeah.
Because
Interesting.
Susan's one of the people who feels more guilty
She's
And
had
they
so
had
much
that like
angst.
little random connection.
over their guilt.
Yeah.
And then I think either Bree or Lynette is gonna die.
Wow, Jesse,
It's
you
gonna
have
be
got...
someone random.
Wait, you think
I
Bree
don't
or
think it's Lynette.
will
I don't
die?
think it's Lynette,
don't
but I
think
wanted to
it's
put
Lynette.
someone else random out
I think
there.
Lynette's going to end up with Tom, so I think more likely it's Bree, especially because she's the only one without significant other potential.
Wait a minute, though. Let's think about like overarching themes, though, because when the series started, it was all about friendship and women on the lane, and
Right.
neighbors, and relating to the average American housewife. Mary Alice kills herself. That's a dramatic thing. Are they really going to end the
I don't
series
know.
with another major player like Bree dying? That just seems awfully depressing.
Especially when
Full circle.
that 2 out of the 5 women would be dead.
2, Edie.
Oh, whoa. 3 out of the 6 women, if you're counting
Yeah.
Edie and Renee. Oh, so actually, yes. 3 out of the 6 would have died. That's half of the women. Dude,
Hey,
I don't know about
that's
that.
what happens in life.
I don't want Bree to die. Marcia Cross seems like a nice woman.
That's what happens in life.
What about Renee?
We could lose her. I like her, but,
But you got,
if,
would you
if somebody
care
has to
enough
die,
if she died? Really?
No, I see. If Renee
only
dies,
if Bree could get her boy.
that sends a bad message that sluts always die. No,
Oh.
seriously.
I think we need to make that a T-shirt.
Just
actually.
because you're a whore doesn't mean you deserve to die.
Yeah, there was a shirt the other day at a store that said, like, beware of beesies. You know, do you guys use the word beesies?
I never
Sluts,
used that word.
bitches, beesies. I don't know, my roommate uses it
don't
all the
use that
time.
word.
I don't-
How do you spell that?
B-E-E-Z-E-S, beesies.
Beesies? And that's a substitute for bitches.
Yeah, so beesies always die.
Well, the beesies. Beesies always die. Well, you know what? Maybe they would. I just think that sends a bad message. Like, if there's a
Well,
young girl out there
Okay,
who
but if
really
they like
wants...
kill Susan, it's the nice person always dies.
Maybe
or
they all
something,
commit suicide together.
Well, here's my other question for you guys, 'cause
Friendship.
I don't really know if there was a tie to this, but could they bring Susan's like sickness back?
Oh.
we don't have time for her to get cancer again.
No, you mean Lynette?
Lynette to get cancer.
But he's
Oh,
talking about
Susan's-
Susan with her
the kidney thing.
kidney. What happened?
Dialysis?
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you guys.
She got
She
the
got it
transplant.
from-
Oh, she did. Okay.
She got the
She got the
transplant.
transplant.
So could one of her
From
kidneys
Paul's
From
wife.
Beth.
Yeah.
fall
from
out
Beth.
one day and she would need dialysis? Maybe. I hope not. We don't have time for people to get sick. Girls,
How many
Jesse,
episodes do we have left?
We've got friendships to fix
15?
and
They go-
people
got
to
about
get new
half
boyfriends.
of them left, right?
No, more than that, because they go about.
I think we
20.
probably have
They go
15 left.
23 episodes,
No,
don't
yeah.
So that means we have 14 episodes left. Start the countdown. I think we're going to have to start the Desperate Housewives countdown clock. Do we have one of those little replicas of Times Square, the ball in Times Square, Jesse? And if we don't, can we get one by next week? Awesome.
Yeah, we'll
Thanks.
work on
Cool. Perfect. So I think that pretty much wraps up this week's episode. Predictions, we think Tom and Lynette will get back. Who knows who killed Chuck with the car? Inadvertently or purposely? We don't know.
Not inadvertently. Oh, that was a hit.
Roxy, cell phones these days, iPhones, it could have been someone mapping out where the closest, like, Applebee's is.
Yeah, but they didn't stop. They didn't hesitate for a minute afterwards.
They did not stop. They kept going.
Well, again, like, roads these days are very bumpy. You could easily, like, hit
was that
someone
a
and think it
person?
was a
I
pot.
doubt it.
It was probably just a pothole.
I think he's just being difficult tonight.
Listen, all I'm
You're
saying...
so argumentative.
You are the devil's advocate tonight.
We need... we need a devil's advocate in this room. I just don't think it's that cut and dry. I don't think it's Bree got in the car, ran him over, and that's that.
We shall see.
We shall see. All right, folks. Well, I think we're out of time, and as much as we'd love to stick around, we've got 5 a.m. wake-up calls. You girls are in finals, the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good luck with that. So by next week's episode, will you be done with all your schoolwork?
Yes.
No.
I will be done.
I will have... No.
You'll have...
I will still have 3 more finals after that.
Woof.
Woof, woof.
Okay,
I'll be home.
Well, at least AfterBuzz will be a nice little break from your studies, right?
That is true.
Okay, guys. Well,
Love it.
Roxy Stryer, Sarah Stretton, DJ Jesse in the booth. I'm Derrick Shore, our producer Phil. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and by everyone I mean all 2 of you. And
after the period story, 1 of you.
And we'll see you next week, I hope. Take it easy.
From producers Kevin Undergaro and Phil Svitek, engineer DJ Jesse Janity, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. If you have questions or comments, be sure to buzz us at info@AfterBuzzTV.com. And you can find us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.